The old potter never told his son what the kiln was really for. Every morning in the narrow lanes of Khurja, a small pottery town 2 hours from Delhi where the dust is always red and the air always smells faintly of clay and wood smoke, young Arjun Sharma watched his father push freshly shaped pots into the mouth of the kiln and lock the heavy iron door behind them. The fire inside roared at temperatures that would blister skin in seconds. The pots went in soft, pale, unfinished, fragile as a held breath, and for long, silent hours, nothing came out. When Arjun was 9 years old, he pressed his small face against the iron door and asked his father a question that would take him 30 years to fully understand. "Baba, why do the pots have to go inside the fire? Doesn't it hurt them?" His father looked at him for a long, quiet moment. Then he placed one large calloused hand on the boy's head and said something that made no sense to a 9-year-old standing in the dust on an ordinary Tuesday morning in Khurja. "Beta, the fire is not the enemy of the pot. The fire is the only thing that makes the pot real." Arjun nodded politely the way children do when they decide an adult has said something too large to carry right now. And he forgot about it completely. For 30 years. By the time Arjun Sharma was 39, he had become exactly the man his younger self had dreamed of becoming. He had left Khurja at 18 on a government scholarship, studied engineering in Pune, and built a career in Mumbai that carried him from a shared chawl room in Dharavi all the way to a corner office in Bandra Kurla complex with a view of the Arabian Sea that still made him pause on certain mornings. He had a beautiful flat in Powai, a car his father still looked at with quiet disbelief, a daughter named Priya who was 8 years old, already reading chapter books and asking questions that made Arjun feel simultaneously very proud and slightly overtaken. He had, by every measurement available to a man from Khurja born in the year he was born, made it. And then, on a gray Wednesday in the monsoon season, everything broke at once. The company restructuring came first. 14 years of his career dissolved in a 40-minute meeting with an HR manager who could not make eye contact and kept clicking a pen. Redundant. That was the word they used. As though he were a spare part the machine had decided it no longer required. He drove home in the rain. He sat in the parking garage of his Powai building for 22 minutes before he could make himself go upstairs. His wife Meera had already heard. She put hot chai in front of him and said nothing, because she knew him well enough to know that words right now would be the wrong kind of help. His daughter Priya came and sat beside him and placed her small hand on his arm the way a child does when they cannot name what is wrong, but can feel the weight of it pressing on the person they love. That night, staring at the ceiling while Meera slept, Arjun Sharma felt something he had not felt since he was a boy in a Khurja house with one fan and 4 people sharing it. He felt small. The crisis does not create the smallness. It only reveals the smallness that was always waiting to become something greater. He thought losing the job was the worst of it. He was wrong. 3 weeks later, his business partner Vikram, his closest friend since their second year in Pune, the man who had been best man at his wedding and held Priya as a newborn and wept in the hospital corridor, called to say that the consulting firm they had been quietly building together on the side for 2 years, the secret parachute, the next chapter, was in serious financial trouble. A major client had pulled out. The accounts were short. And somewhere in the middle of the conversation, Arjun understood with the slow and terrible clarity of a man who does not want to understand something, that Vikram had known about the problem for longer than he was saying. The friendship survived. Barely. But the business did not. Now Arjun had no job, no side venture, a Powai flat with an EMI that felt nothing about any of this, a daughter with chapter books, and a wife who made chai and believed in him more completely than he currently believed in himself. He stopped sleeping properly. He began waking at 3 in the morning, his mind running through numbers and conversations and should-haves in tight circles that led nowhere and arrived nowhere and refused to stop. He lost weight. He said, "I'm fine, Amma," to his mother every Sunday in a voice she did not believe for a single second, but accepted anyway, because that is what Indian mothers do when their sons are too proud to fall apart out loud. One October afternoon, he drove to Marine Drive and sat on the sea wall for 2 hours. He watched the gray monsoon Arabian Sea throw itself against the rocks below, pull back, throw itself again, pull back, throw itself again. The sea had been doing this since before anyone was alive to watch it. It had never once stopped. It had never once decided the rocks were too hard and turned around. He did not know it yet, but the sea was trying to tell him something. His parents came to Mumbai in November. His mother cooked for 3 days without pausing, filling the flat with the smell of dal and ghee and the specific warmth of a woman who believes that food is the most direct road between a mother's love and a son's broken spirit. His father said almost nothing for the first 2 days. He walked slowly around the flat. He stood at the window overlooking Powai Lake for a long time. He watched Priya read. He drank his chai. He went to bed early. He seemed, to Arjun, entirely unbothered by the crisis that was eating his son from the inside, and this bothered Arjun more than he could say. On the third morning, very early, Arjun found his father sitting alone on the balcony in the dark before sunrise, a cup of chai warming both hands, looking out at the still lake below. Arjun sat beside him without speaking. The city was quiet. A few crows had started. The sky above the lake was beginning its slow shift from black to the deepest blue. Then his father said, without turning to look at him, "Do you remember what I told you about the pots?" Something old and unfinished moved through Arjun's chest. "The fire makes them real," he said. His own voice surprised him with how quiet it came out. His father nodded once. He took a slow sip of chai. The sky continued its patient work. "When a pot goes into the kiln," his father said, "it is soft, maybe beautiful, carefully shaped by careful hands. But it can hold nothing. Pour water into an unfired pot, and it collapses back into mud. Put any real weight on it, and it cracks. It looks like a pot. It has the shape of a pot. But without the fire, it is only the idea of a pot. A promise that has not been kept yet." He paused. A bird crossed the pale water of the lake below. "The fire," his father continued, his voice carrying the unhurried certainty of a man who has spent 60 years working with clay and knows things that cannot be borrowed from books, "is not the end of the pot. It is the beginning of everything the pot was always supposed to be. Before the fire, the pot was clay pretending to be a vessel. After the fire, it becomes one. Permanently. Completely. Nothing that comes after can take that from it." Arjun said nothing. The first gold line of sunrise was arriving at the edge of the lake. His father stood, placed his empty cup gently on the railing, and looked at his son one long moment before going back inside. "You are in the kiln, beta. That is all this is. You are in the kiln. The fire is not destroying you. It is deciding you. There is a difference. And the difference is everything." Something shifted in Arjun Sharma on that balcony. Not dramatically. Not the way transformations happen in films. More quietly than that. More honestly. He began to look at his crisis not as a punishment or a verdict on his worth, but as a kiln. As the thing that was burning away the version of him that had only ever worked inside structures other people built, inside a comfort never properly tested, inside a life that looked solid but had never truly been fired. He thought about what 6 months of crisis had taught him that 14 years of smooth success had not. He knew now which relationships were real. He knew what his wife was built from. He knew that his daughter's love had nothing to do with his title or his car. He knew, for the first time with real clarity, what he actually wanted to build versus what had simply looked good from the outside. He started again, quietly, using everything the fire had stripped from him as the exact blueprint for what he built next. A small focused consultancy. The dining table as his office. Priya doing homework beside him. Mira bringing chai. Clients who had trusted him for years, now called directly for the first time. It took 2 years. Not a montage. 2 real, unglamorous, fired years. But when it emerged, it was unbreakable in a way nothing he had built before had ever been. Because this time, it had been through the kiln. This time, it was real. "I want to speak to you now. Directly. The crisis you are carrying right now. The job lost. The relationship broken. The plan that collapsed. the ground that shifted without warning beneath something you had built carefully and trusted completely, is not random. It is not punishment. It is not the universe being careless with your one life. It is an invitation, written not in beautiful letters on nice paper, but in the hard, honest language of loss and uncertainty. And 3 in the morning, when sleep will not come and the numbers do not add up, and the person you thought you were seems very far away. It is inviting you into the kiln. It is inviting you to become the fired version of yourself. The version that can hold real weight. The version that does not collapse when life pours something heavy into it. The version that is no longer only the idea of who you were meant to be, but the actual, permanent, authority-carrying thing. Every person who has ever carried real authority in this world, every person whose life became a shelter for other people, whose work outlasted them, whose name still means something after they are gone, was fired. Every single one of them sat inside a season that felt like an ending and did not know yet that it was a beginning. The potter does not abandon the pot inside the kiln. He built the kiln. He controls the fire. He is watching through the whole long, dark, and hot and silent waiting, and he already knows, with the calm certainty of a man who has done this 10,000 times, exactly what is being made in there. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are in the kiln, and what comes out on the other side will be the most real, the most useful, the most unbreakable version of you that has ever existed. Hold on. The door is about to open. You are not broken. You are being fired. And everything that was always in you is about to become permanent,